And I think we can yeah, move to the next big feature, long-awaited feature, so remote assets. Historically, if you go through the issues in the Re.Pack, you can see a lot of them asking, how can I make sure that the assets from the federated modules, so the modules fetched dynamically remotely to the super app, are actually being fetched, how we can make the assets land in the host app. So before Re.Pack 3.2.0, it was really hard to do so. You either had to implement like your custom way to go around that, which is obviously not a good thing because then you have to maintain it, and it's always the best way to have it built in into the tool. And there was another solution which will mention in a bit. So we decided that we need to implement it inside the Re.Pack. So we have a built-in way to address the remote assets problem. So I think we can move to the next slide and discuss the history about it.
Yeah, so before the update 3.2.0 of Re.Pack, we only had basically one way to load the um, load the assets if we wanted to utilize module federation. And that was inlining all of the assets into the bundle. So inlining means that basically, for example, if we had an image, we needed to convert it to a base64 string and then just put that string into the bundle. And that is still viable but inefficient solution because the bundle size grows greatly and the base64 representation of that image is way bigger than it would be as, for example, in a PNG format. The other method that could also work for the module federation but wasn't officially supported was that you could actually, if you had a host app and mini app, you could take all of the assets from the mini app, put it into the host app, and then with a little bit of tweaking of Re.Pack code base, you could actually load these assets as if they were local ones because you already prepackaged them into the main app, right? But that wasn't officially supported as we don't believe it's not a maintainable way to go around handling the assets.
Yeah, let's talk about the pros and cons of the remote assets because like with every great feature, there comes some trade-offs of it. And I think the pros like outweigh the cons, but yeah, let's talk about them so we have a clear picture here.
All right. So the first pros is that in development, when you are working with remote assets, it should be basically the same experience as if you were working with local assets. It basically works like that. So when you have the assets locally in your project and you load them locally, but when you convert them to remote assets in production, you actually you need to upload them to the CDN and then just download them as if they're remote in the first place. We also save the information about the width and the height of the image, so there is no issue where you could probably remember that if you load an image from a remote resource in React Native, you actually have to specify style and then the width and height of that image. Otherwise, it will just not appear on the screen, right?
So I've stumbled upon that numerous times.
Yeah, and you actually don't have to do that. We save that information during the bundling process, so it's all taken care of. And yeah, so overall, the biggest pros I think is that as we don't bundle the assets at compile time and we move them to the CDN, we have small bundle that has a better startup time, right? But obviously that solution isn't without the cons. So, so the biggest con, I guess, is that, well, you actually need to load these images. So you should probably use some default placeholder for that image or a fallback image, as well as utilize some loading state, I suppose. But image component can take care of that basically out of the box. So there's no need for some
and there are
custom hooks, right?
Yeah, but there are like, for example, you can use React Native Fast Image if you wanna build on top of this solution, and I don't know, for example, prefetch all the assets for the first screen of the mini app that you're downloading, right? So the user don't have to wait. Besides waiting for JS code, the user don't have to wait for the images to load. You can prefetch them.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good base to build on top of it.
Yeah. And so the second con is that as these assets will be uploaded to the CDN, in the end, we need to know the address of that CDN beforehand at build time, so we can place that final URLs into the bundle.
Yeah, because it's all happening in the build time, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then you have to care about how much your file weighs in order not to download the 10 megs or something of the image, right?
Yeah. That's always true for basically all the assets, right?
Yeah.
You always want
always
bundle
optimize
size
assets.
the smallest as possible. Yeah. So one last thing we wanted to talk about when it comes to remote assets is that we included automatic scale resolution for scaled assets. And what it means that, for example, if you have locally three sizes of an asset, and you convert these to remote ones, Re.Pack will do scale resolution in the runtime of the client's app, and it will check what scale it needs, and it will use that URL to actually download the needed assets. So we don't need to download all the scales, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Also for saving the network traffic, basically. So yeah, to sum up the remote assets, when with code sign-in, we didn't have the documentation page. With remote assets, we have. So you can visit it now, or you can reference the PR because it also has the usage section. But I think this docs page is more comprehensive. And there you can see all the things you need to configure in order to use the remote assets, basically to configure the assets loader so it enables remote assets, the Webpack assets loader. And as I think this is giving you a lot of control over what you can achieve. So be prepared that you probably would need to experiment with these assets a bit in order to suit your use case, because as usually with Webpack, there's a lot of things you can configure, and that sometimes can be overwhelming. But the end result that you can get is what you're aiming for. Like you actually can tweak it to exactly match your needs, basically. So I think that sums it up for remote assets. Be sure to check the 3.2.0. All feedback is welcome. If you have any troubles, any issues, just file them in the GitHub. And yeah, if you have any ideas how we can improve things, do that as well.
Yeah, create PRs, create issues, give us feedback.